To understand how big money breaks the rules in Washington, we sought out the poster child for political corruption, former lobbyist Jack Abramoff. Having pled guilty to charges including conspiracy to bribe public officials, Abramoff spent nearly 4 years in federal prison. Now released, he is touring the country trying to promote reform.
I wish I could tell you that in the midst of all of my lobbying activity, I came to an epiphany, but I didn't. It, unfortunately for me, required my demise.
Jack Abramoff has pled guilty to federal corruption charges.
But eventually I decided to look honestly at the past activities I had engaged in. I also systemically looked at the overall picture and realized the system itself was really badly in disrepair. The lobbyists will bring in the exact draft of what they want because they want to make sure it is exactly what they need. And, you know, the staff are busy, the congressmen busy, and so they frequently in the past and still avail themselves of the services, let's call them, of the lobbyists to write these bills.
Now, as a lobbyist, what was your leverage in terms of getting members to sponsor the bills that you had written?
Well, a lobbyist needs to get to the decision maker, the congressman and the staff, and that involves, unfortunately, financial conveyances.
One of the dirty little secrets in Washington today is how much time members of the House and Senate spend every week, not just in the election season, but all the time, year-round, on the telephone, asking people for money. It's begging for money. It's a sad spectacle.
When you have campaigns that are costing tens of millions of dollars, the people who have the money want something back. Money is being used to buy results. That is the problem. That's how I used money. I know what I was doing.
Washington is almost owned and operated by the U.S. corporate sector at this point. There are so many billions of dollars of spending on lobbying. There are so many lobbyists that are in the room writing the regs, writing the laws right now. There is so much financing of political campaigns. There are so many bought politicians.
Our civics books tell us that the president is the most powerful person in the world, and that special interests must go to Washington to petition the government. But when it comes time to raise money, our presidents go hat in hand to the people who really have the power. In 2007, President George W. Bush made a pilgrimage to Steve Schwartzman's apartment to ask for money for the Republican National Committee.
The Secret Service were coming for, I would say, 3 to 4 months before the actual visit, and they would come every week just to check up, look around the building. They did background checks on us for sure. They had the sharpshooters out. They brought Mr. Bush to Mr. Schwartzman's apartment. He spent maybe 15 minutes out, and that's it.
Why did John Dillinger rob banks? That's where the money is. Well, 740 Park is where the money is, and in this day and age, any candidate who didn't go to 740 Park would probably be foolish.
I'm Mitt Romney. I believe in America, and I'm running for president of the United States.
Romney has a private meeting on Park Avenue with the prominent CEOs eager for change in Washington.
Mitt Romney went to kiss Mr. Schwartzman's ring and meet some of his friends and no doubt collect a few checks.
What makes him good for the country?
Mitt, he's a natural leader, and he's accessible. He listens to what you say.
And what are you telling him about what needs to be done?
We had a nice meeting about 3 weeks ago for an hour, and what I tell him stays with me, but I'm not shy.
They can influence the writing of laws, the implementation of regulation, the degree to which the tax code tilts towards business and those at the top versus ordinary working Americans.
A perfect example of the influence that a small group of billionaires can have on the government is something in the tax code called a carried interest provision. It allows hedge fund and private equity managers like Steve Schwartzman to pay a 15% tax rate on their income, even though, unlike normal capital gains, they're not required to risk their own money.
When it's explained to people, they think it's crazy. The most highly paid financial executives get taxed at a rate lower than your mom and pop grocery. It is in the tax code because of the incredibly effective lobbying of the financial industry.
Okay, it was a question about carried interest being taxed at a lower rate. We sort of look at this as sort of an issue that's now in the political world, and you know, it will be solved in that world. We don't have much of a say in that.
Schwartzman went to Capitol Hill yesterday and stood outside the Senate chamber lobbying senators. Schwartzman was there to fight against higher taxes on so-called carried interest.
From 2006 on, every Democratic leader and president, in the case of President Obama, has said, we're going to get rid of this.
Let's ask hedge fund managers to stop paying taxes that are lower on their rates than their secretaries.
And then magically it manages to survive. Before you know it, the congressional session has ended, and oh my God, we ran out of time. We didn't get to it. We'll do it next time.
It appears the Democrats have completed their takeover of Capitol Hill.
Even when the Democrats controlled both houses of Congress, they couldn't close the carried interest loophole. The question is why.
It passed the House twice, but in the Senate, the hedge funds had a pal in Charles Schumer of New York, the senator from Wall Street, as he was known for many years.
Charles Schumer is one of the most powerful senators in the country and has raised more campaign money from the financial industry than any other Democrat currently serving in Congress.
Schumer became famous for his ability to gain Wall Street dollars. That's why he was elevated within the Democratic leadership, is because he was such an effective fundraiser.
Schumer in that period was the chairman of the Senate Democratic Campaign Committee, which, you got to give the guy credit, he turned this into an absolute money machine.
Schumer helped the Democratic Party raise record amounts from Wall Street. And in June 2007, as the Senate was considering legislation to close the carried interest loophole, Schumer went on a fundraising frenzy. In that 1 month, he raised more than $1 million from hedge funds and private equity firms like Blackstone. The carried interest bill never saw the light of day.
Schumer just buried the idea. It never came up for a vote in a committee or on the floor of the Senate. It just disappeared.
And that, I think, is a perfect example of the way in which money talks in American politics today.